We've talked about the importance of having a register with high quality information for risk to be manageable. We were saying that manageable risk involves being able to respond to it and for the response to be efficient. Well, the time has come to plan that response, seeking maximum efficiency at minimum cost. Let's start with the objective. What do we want to accomplish in this process? We want to plan a response to prioritized risks. First question, why prioritized risks? Because risk management must be efficient. That is, the cost of managing risks must be less than the cost of their impact if they were to materialize. We assume that low level or medium low level risks won't exceed a cost benefit analysis, so they aren't prioritized in the response plan. As part of our response planning exercise, we'll carry out a cost benefit analysis for each prioritized risk, which will ensure that the cost of managing the risk is less than the cost of its impact if it were to materialize. Let's imagine the following situation. We've identified that the person responsible for procurement management in our project doesn't have much experience with large procurement processes, and this could generate delays and deviations in the management of our annual objectives. Among the many possible responses, we've identified one which involves hiring a company to be responsible for all procurement processes. However, the company will charge us 25% of management costs. As part of the response planning analysis, we're going to have to compare this 25% of management costs with what it would actually cost us if large procurement processes were actually delayed because of our specialists' lack of experience. If the projected delay costs are greater than 25% of the total project amount, then, and only then, can we consider the response to this risk as an appropriate response and include it in our response plan. The risk prioritization that we carried out during the qualitative analysis enables us to filter the risks for which we're going to look for a cost-efficient response. We will record low or medium low-level risks for monitoring so we can continue to observe them, but they won't be included in the response plan. We'll only take into account medium, high, and high-level risks in the response planning process. A response is an action that seeks to manage a risk. Before we identify this action, we need to decide what we'd like to achieve with it. Do we want to avoid the risk, mitigate it, transfer it to another party who can address it? Let's look at our options, which we call risk response strategies. The following are response strategies for negative risks or threats. Avoid, which involves eliminating the risk. For example, substituting one product for another, changing the area of intervention, or, if possible, eliminating the cause of the risk. Mitigate, which involves reducing risk probability and/or impact. The risk will remain, but its level will have been reduced. Transfer, which involves shifting the impact to a third party. The risk remains and its level is the same, but we pay a third party to manage the risk and bear the cost of the impact. For example, when we buy insurance. And last but not least, accept, which doesn't require any action. We simply wait. The seventh critical success factor in our top 10 list is explicit opportunity identification. We must remember that a risk can have a positive impact on our project if it's correctly managed. The following are response strategies for positive risks or opportunities. Exploit, which involves using all resources to cause the risk to materialize. Enhance, which involves increasing the risk's probability of occurrence and/or its impact. Share its management and benefits with a third party. And accept, which doesn't require any action. You've probably noticed that both for positive and negative risks, we always have the option to accept the risk. When is this strategy appropriate? Only when our cost benefit analysis shows that any response is more costly than the materialization of the risk itself. In that case, we'll accept the probability that the risk may materialize and will address the impact of the materialization with funds from the contingency reserve. The eighth critical success factor in risk management is early identification. This critical factor is particularly related to response, cost benefit analysis, and risk management efficiency. When the project starts in its early design phases, the level of uncertainty is very high because we have little information. However, our ability to manage risk is also very high, and the cost of doing so is very low. Because no commitments have been made yet, stakeholder expectations are still limited, and no resources have been invested in execution. As the project progresses, our ability to address risks decreases, and the cost of managing them increases. Early risk identification enables us to manage risk in a more effective and less costly manner. That is, more efficiently. The beginning of the project is when we can avoid the largest number of risks, or when mitigation generates a greater reduction of probability and/or impact. As long as the cost-benefit analysis enables it, we will avoid risk rather than mitigate it rather than transfer it, and only accept it if we have no other choice. With this process that we've analyzed, we're done with risk planning processes, and we can close our project's risk management plan, which now includes the rules with which we'll manage risks in this project, the register of all risks identified so far which may affect the project, the prioritized risk register or risk matrix, and the response plan. We're ready to spring into action.